Sharon Peterson. I'm one of the registered dietitian nutritionists who work for the Villages Health. And I'd like to talk today a little bit about portion sizes. And we're calling this Portions Matter for Older Adults. So is there a difference between portion size and serving size? We're going to talk about that. We're going to see how this might apply to our favorite restaurant meals. And then wrap it up with specifics on how to choose a lower carb, nutrient dense eating style. So servings versus portions. There is a difference. Serving size is the standardized amount found on the food label. So if you look at a food label, it says serving size. Now, portion size is how much we decide to serve ourselves or how much someone else serves us, often in a restaurant setting. So people are notoriously bad at estimating a serving and will typically eat whatever is on their plate. So it's important to measure what we plan to eat. Using appropriate servings allows us to be more flexible with our meal planning. So here's one of my favorite handouts, portion distortion. This represents the changes, the increase, I should say, in portion sizes over the past 20 years. So how this is set up is, let's just start at the top. There's a standard cheeseburger from 20 years ago, and then the size today. The red numbers are the difference in calories. So how many more calories are in today's typical cheeseburger? And then right below it, it gives examples of how much physical activity we would have to do just to burn off the difference, just to burn off that 257 more calories. Lift weights for an hour and a half. And you can see the pizza. Now the spaghetti, I think, doesn't look that much different on the plate, but look at the difference in calories, 525 more calories going from 1 cup of spaghetti with 3 small meatballs to 2 cups of spaghetti with 3 large meatballs. And I don't know about you, but I'm not interested in doing house cleaning for 2 hours and 35 minutes to make up for that difference. Look at the coffee. Today's coffee really has become more of a dessert. We go from 45 calories to 350 calories. We'd have to walk an hour and 20 minutes to burn off that difference. Muffins, cookies, you get the point. So we do have portion distortion. Have you noticed that they're not even asking us anymore if we want to supersize anything? They're just automatically giving us large portions. So what about restaurant portions? You may have noticed that calories are now required to be listed on restaurant menus and similar retail food establishments if they have 20 or more locations. So if it's any kind of a chain at all, they are required to put the calories on. A mom and pop or a small businesses are not required. And restaurants are supposed to be able to provide all the rest of the nutrition information that we might be interested in available upon request, and certainly it is all available online. So what about restaurant portions? Well, most of us underestimate the calories, fat, sodium, and carbs in a typical restaurant meal. Now you might say, well, I don't care. I don't want to know. That's fine. I get it. But I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, we only went out to a restaurant for Mother's Day. And so, yeah, if I'm only going to a restaurant once a year, I can order anything I want. But the typical American is now reporting 4 to 7 meals per week eaten away from home or prepared away from home and brought home. So it's not a special treat anymore. It's a part of our daily lifestyle. So I think this is important to talk about. We need to know that people typically eat 50% more calories, 50% more fat, and 50% more sodium when eating foods prepared away from home versus at home. So let's have some fun with this. Let's guess the calories in some of these common restaurant items. Here's something called cinnamon cream stacked and stuffed hotcakes. There's the picture. Any guesses on the calories in something like this? The answer is 1,380 calories and 27 teaspoons of added sugar. That's not grams. That's not grams of sugar like on the food label. That's teaspoons. Okay. How about a bloomin' onion or Texas rose? In case you don't know what that is, it's a batter dipped, deep fried whole onion. Any guesses? 1,900 calories. And it's on that area on the menu that starts with an A. It's an appetizer. It says on the menu it's supposed to serve 2. I say share it with, make friends with everybody around you and share it with 10 friends. Because an appetizer implies that there's still more food coming, right? Okay, what else do we have here? How about a Five Guys bacon, cheeseburger, large fries, and 32-ounce regular soda? Now, whoever ordered the large fries obviously has not ever been to a Five Guys. Because if you've been to a Five Guys, you know it doesn't matter what size of fries you order, you're going to get an extra scoop of fries thrown into the bag on top of your food. And also keep in mind that the 32 ounces of regular soda, any calorie-containing beverage, whether it's sweet tea, lemonade, regular soda, has the calories in it, you just add a 0. So for 32 ounces, you add a 0, it's going to be 320 calories. Okay? Then you add in the excessively large serving of fries and the bacon cheeseburger. Any guesses? 2,680 calories. It would be equal to ordering 2 quarter pounders and 3 large fries at another establishment. And one more. Loaded bloomin' onion. So you remember the bloomin' onion had 1,900 calories, right? Well, I recently saw this when I was out and about, and it's called a loaded bloomin' onion. So it's got French fries on top, and it's got ranch dressing and all kinds of stuff on it. Notice the calories are not listed. I think the way they're getting away with that is because it's a temporary item that they're offering. So they do not have the calories listed. But I went online and learned that this item has 2,960 calories, and perhaps more disturbing, 86 grams of saturated fat. Folks, the daily recommendation for all of us is no more than 20 grams of saturated fat. This is over 4 times the recommended amount in this one item. And this level of sodium is dangerous. 5,660 milligrams of sodium would be dangerous for one person to consume in one setting. So again, share it with 10 friends if you're going to order this. And then 192 grams of carbs. Okay, so what are some tips for and strategies for dealing with these restaurant menus, restaurant meals, I should say, that are just way more food than we need or want? This is an example of a group of researchers. It was in the Boston area, and they went around and gathered up typical entrees from different types of restaurants. In this example here, there's Greek, Indian, Vietnamese. And they found that the average entree with sides, as served, had 1,300 calories in it. That's without the drink, without an appetizer, and without dessert. So plan on most, if not all, restaurant meals that we order to be an average of 1,300 calories. So I recommend either sharing an entree or sharing some sides. Ask for the to-go box when the meal comes. Cut everything in half right off the bat. Because if we wait until the end of the meal, we keep picking and picking and picking, and then there's only 2 bites left, and who's going to put that in a box, right? So be very intentional about cutting it in half and get 2 meals out of it. And seeing that these portion sizes are way more than we need. Those are some excellent tips and strategies for managing restaurant meals prepared at home. Well, I like to use the phrase nutrient-dense foods or high-quality foods. We should try to make every bite count towards nutrition. This is one of my favorite quotes. It says, "The food we eat can either be the safest and most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison." So maybe you've heard of food as medicine. There's a movement. A lot of people are climbing on board this idea of using food as medicine. So here's an ingredient list. I just want you to look at it for a second. Try to guess what it might be. Notice all the chemicals and how many lines of ingredients this particular item has. Okay. Here's another one. Again, look at all the lines, look at all the word artificials sprinkled throughout there. One thing I do want to highlight is, do you see at the bottom it says contains milk ingredients, and it's all capital letters. Food companies are now required by law to put that statement at the bottom of an ingredient list if it contains any of the top 8 food allergens. So things like soy, eggs, wheat, milk, fish, seafood, nuts, peanuts. So anyway, I wanted you to guess what these 2 items might be. This is the second one. And the answer, the first one was Twinkie, and the second one was Doritos. So certainly examples of, ultra processed foods. They are not nutrient dense foods. So what factors affect our food choices? Have you ever thought about why you choose the foods you do? There's lots and lots, probably hundreds of reasons why we choose the foods we do. Have you ever thought about what makes you decide on one thing instead of something else? Well, whenever research is done on it, taste always seems to be number one, and cost is usually up there pretty high on the list, if not number 2. So taste and cost, 2 of the most important factors that people report affecting their food choices. But we've got things like convenience, appearance, how about advertising, how about nutrition, traditions, maybe avoiding pesticides, avoiding those foods that cause us allergies and intolerances, texture, smell, availability, ethics, socializing, health and wellness, and many, many other factors. But just keep in mind that taste and cost usually float to the top of the pile as the main factors that affect our food choices. So here's a book written by Michael Moss. It says Salt, Sugar, Fat, How the Food Giants Hooked Us. This is a summary, some key points that I took out of the book. So we currently have 300 different food manufacturers making processed foods in this country. And they are producing 60,000 different processed items that show up in our typical supermarkets. So salt, sugar, and fat are the pillars of these ultra-processed foods. Foods that have been so processed they have no nutrition left. They're just empty calories and ways to get sugar, salt, and fat into our bodies. Now, you may have heard that sugar and fat light up the same spot in our brain that cocaine does. And so they're trying to get us addicted to these foods and to eat more and more and keep coming back. There's this thing called the bliss point of sugar, which is the measure of maximum taste satisfaction. It actually causes consumers to crave sugar in an addictive manner. And the leading executives in the processed food industry actually avoid eating the products that are made by their companies. So those are some summary statements from this book, Salt, Sugar, Fat. There's a number of other really good books out there talking about these topics. So does anybody know what is the daily recommendation for added sugar? This is not something we talk about very often. I don't really expect you to know. So I'll answer my own question. For women, the daily recommendation for added sugar is 5 teaspoons or 20 grams of added sugar per day. For men, the daily recommendation is 9 teaspoons or 45 grams of added sugar per day. But that's the upper limit. Less is obviously better. So the grams are what you would see on your food label. So the typical American, again, in surveys, is currently reporting to consume 17 teaspoons or 68 grams of added sugars per day. So way over the recommendation. And can you guess the top source of added sugar in the American food industry intake? Yeah, portions of sugary beverages. So, the beverage industry, the calorie-containing beverages, these little squares each represent 1 teaspoon of sugar. So, what are these ultra-processed, low-nutrient, high-calorie junk foods? Specifically, things like the fancy coffees that we talked about before that are really more dessert, regular sodas, sweet teas, lemonades, fruit juices, your donuts, your pastries, candy, cookies, snack cakes like Twinkies, pies, cakes, ice cream, potato chips, cheese puffs, pretzels, tortilla chips like the Doritos, bacon, sausage, bologna, salami, hot dogs, brats, pepperoni, ribs, those highly processed meats, breaded and deep fried items, very inflammatory to the body. Things like French fries, onion rings, breaded and fried fish, breaded and fried chicken, breaded and fried seafood. So these ultra processed foods really are causing us to have inflammation, and weight gain are just not good for us at all. So what if we instead chose to focus on nutrient dense, high quality foods? There's some pictures right there. What about fruits and vegetables and whole grains, legumes? Legumes are things like black beans, pinto beans, kidney beans, chickpeas, lentils. Nutrient-dense, high-quality foods like herbs and spices, healthy types of oils, dairy products or those non-dairy alternatives, lean proteins like your chicken, turkey, eggs, fish, seafood, nuts, seeds, lean beef, lean pork, water, tea, coffee. Does this sound familiar? Anybody recognize this eating style? It very much reminds me of the Mediterranean diet, which has been identified as the healthiest way to eat, and this is what we would recommend. So it's a focus on nutrient-dense whole foods instead of those ultra-processed foods. It is 75% plant-based, so fresh and frozen vegetables, whole fruits, higher fiber breads and cereals and rice and whole grains, nuts and seeds, legumes and beans, olive oil as the main source of fat in the Mediterranean style of eating, garlic, herbs and spices, tea, lower fat dairy products or non-dairy alternatives, eggs, chicken, turkey, fish, seafood, smaller amounts of lean beef and pork, dark chocolate, red wine in moderation or none at all. So this is really the answer to how we want to be proceeding with our food choices as we age. And this is making every bite count towards nutrition. These are your nutrient-dense whole foods. And we really need to look at those ultra-processed foods as poison, as toxins. Some of the recent headlines are saying that ultra-processed foods are actually causing an inflammatory response in our body, just like an injury or an infection does. So I'm on a crusade to try to get people's attention that those things are not good for us and are now being considered toxic and poison. Okay, I hope you heard something today that will be helpful to you.